Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Here in this video, we are going to go over everything you need to know in regards to AMC stock, all of the data, and what's going to be happening in this upcoming week, which could be very important for AMC stock, potentially help send AMC stock higher. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel, and let's get started with this information. So first up, AMC's rallied quite a bit, over $1.30 from the low, which on a percentage basis is roughly, let's check, percentage basis, that is about 38%. So wow. Yeah, that is quite a move from the lows that we have already seen. So it is likely, in my personal opinion, the stock does continue higher, closer to that 50-day moving average. But I actually think the rally could get a lot more intense to the upside than just the 50-day moving average. I'm targeting $10 plus potentially for AMC stock here in the kind of near-term future. Now, why? Okay, so Nvidia reports earnings next week. That's important because Nvidia has really been sucking the life out of, your lower quadrant, your mid quadrants of our markets, like small cap stocks, mid cap stocks, names that are not in this AI bubble, if you will. The life is being sucked out of them by Nvidia. Just the sheer market cap gain that you have seen is like over $600 billion. That money is not coming from, bond markets. That money is not coming from cash on the sidelines. That money that's going into Nvidia is coming from other areas of the markets. So that's, that's been a big problem for other stocks like AMC, even like a Tesla, right? It's been a lot of draining of these other names, and that money has went into Nvidia. Now, one of the top analysts in the world, his name is Christopher Rowland. He has some interesting things to say about Nvidia. He says, giving his Magic 8 Ball a good shake, Susquehanna's Christopher Rowland, a 5-star analyst rated in the top 1% of Wall Street pros, confidently declared signs point to yes. Not in those exact words, of course, to be precise. What Rowland actually said is that investors have high expectations of Nvidia stock, but also that the company is executing at a high level and will probably deliver a strong report. And it had better be right. At a current PE multiple of more than 95 times earnings, Nvidia stock has high expectations baked right into its stock price. As Rowland sees it, simply hitting analyst targets for Q4 earnings of $4.56 per share and $20.4 billion in sales won't be enough. Nvidia needs to deliver a clear earnings beat with at least $1.5 billion ahead of expectations in order to justify the stock's high price. He says, perhaps helped by better hyperscale CapEx guidance and recent commentary from Meta and Tesla suggesting they're actively buying GPUs from Nvidia. Rowland sees Nvidia's data center revenues, which account for about 80% of Nvidia's business, continuing to grow strongly in Q4 and beyond. Future demand looks good, and the supply situation is improving as well, with Nvidia likely to increase production each quarter through the end of this coming year. Now, what's actually interesting there is if you were to, order an H100 GPU, for an example, there has been a, 11, 12 month long wait for that because everyone else was also ordering them, and that was the wait. Well, now the lead time is about 3 to 4 months. So that could imply a little bit less demand or maybe a little bit more supply. Less demand would be obviously bad news for Nvidia. More supply would be good news. We really don't know what that is about. We just got that news that was last week. So that's going to be important to get some color on that. But also, you guys got to remember, these GPUs are not supposed to be $35,000, right? These GPUs are MSRP'd at about $8,000. It cost Nvidia about $3,300 to make them. So what does that mean? Well, due to the high backlog that you have seen, the long wait times, people have been willing to pay $35,000 per one of these GPUs. If your lead time is falling and inevitably over the next couple of quarters falling down to, you know, a normal lead time, like a month maybe, then you could see some pressure on pricing as well. And if there's pressure on pricing, well, NVIDIA is not going to be putting up $20 billion quarters anymore if the GPU price actually starts to come down. And that's what a lot of people are expecting later on through this year. GPU prices could start to come down. So really that would have to be offset by higher volume numbers, which, you know, you just never know if that's going to happen, right? So there's a lot of questions, believe it or not, on how demand is going to look like. And then when you look at the law of large numbers, it's going to be very hard for NVIDIA to grow as fast as they have been. In fact, it's pretty much going to be impossible for NVIDIA to grow as fast as they have been. But, you know, I think for the most part that's expected. As long as NVIDIA can grow EPS by a lot, then that will be good news. Now, it says, let's see, thus for the time being, at least it sounds like NVIDIA is able to fully capitalize on red hot demand for its products by selling all the chips the market can consume, even as it raises prices on what it sells. This bodes well for gross profit margins, although perhaps not as well as investors will be hoping. NVIDIA is already earning gross margins of 74%. Getting much better than 75% seems unlikely, and when you get down to it, the scale only goes up to 100. Although if anyone can earn gross margins of more than 100% these days, it would probably be NVIDIA. Plus, as well as NVIDIA's data center business is performing, and as a big part data center plays in overall revenues, NVIDIA's margins will be dragged down a bit by ongoing weakness in certain other segments, notably automotive. Global EV sales are staggering after all. Ultimately, Roland is predicting that NVIDIA will report quarterly sales of about $21.5 billion next week, which by the analyst's own logic could come as a disappointment to investors, being less than $1.5 billion above the consensus forecast. In the short term, this could cause NVIDIA shares to fall post-earnings. Longer term, however, the analyst still has a positive buy rating on NVIDIA stock and sets a $850 price target on the shares, predicting 17% upside for the year ahead. That's pretty important because if NVIDIA does fall after earnings, yeah, that's going to be maybe not so good for the S&P or the NASDAQ, maybe not so good for, you know, obviously NVIDIA, but you can always, you know, make the argument that that could be good for stocks like AMC, right? Because if AMC, you know, can get some money coming back into it because NVIDIA falls, really the entire small cap arena could get some money coming into it. Well, that's a big deal. Now, NVIDIA, you're talking about $1.8 trillion company. If NVIDIA, well, NVIDIA is pricing in about 11% for the expected move coming on earnings, which is just crazy. 11% either direction is the expected move. That would be a market cap move of about $200 billion. If that move is downwards, then you could see a lot of money start to flow to other places. And yeah, that would obviously be positive for AMC. Now, we have seen this correlation before, starting on February 6th. If you take a look at NVIDIA, and let's say IWM, right? Just as kind of a barometer here, right? Whoops, what am I doing? Okay, so really starting on February 6th, we've seen this quite obviously. On February 6th, IWM was up about 1%. NVIDIA was down about 1.6%. At one point, the stock was down 4%. Now, back here on February 8th, NVIDIA was down 0.65%. On February 8th, IWM was up 1.5%. NVIDIA was down 1.68% on the 15th, February 15th. And IWM was up 2.67%. On Friday, Nvidia was down a little bit, including after hours. You were positive. IWM on Friday was down quite a bit. That was mainly because we had PPI that came out way hotter than expected, especially for core. So you can see the correlation here. When Nvidia is having red days, IWM is doing well. That's because money essentially is coming out of Nvidia into IWM, into your small cap names. At the same time, AMC stock has just been chugging along, doing its thing, a 38% rise so far from the lows. I do think you're likely to continue higher from here in the grand scope of things. Now, depending on what happens with Nvidia, that's obviously going to change the situation and potentially make it a lot more bullish or maybe a lot more bearish. AMC also has earnings coming up, and Adam Aron has already teased to expect something big, and it has people kind of excited. As you can see here from this article, it says AMC stock, Adam Aron teases much to say ahead of February 28th. It says is another big catalyst on the horizon for this meme stock. Investors appear to be expecting some sort of bullish announcement from the company's Q4 earnings call. CEO Adam Aron has pointed to having much to say on the earnings call, stoking investor interest in the meme stock. Now, I personally think this probably, okay, let's be honest. Adam Aron's going to say, hey, Wall Street thinks we're going to have a bad box office. That's mostly what is affecting the stock. But we're going to stop diluting shareholders because we're going to give you guys a break. Something along those lines is what I'm expecting from Adam Aron and AMC. They have to get AMC's share price higher. And that seems like the only way that they could probably do that at this point. And that will send AMC stock soaring, at least in my personal opinion. I mean, the only reference point we have to this was back in 2022, back here when AMC stock dropped precipitously based on dilution. And what happened? Adam Aron said, hey, we're not going to dilute shareholders anymore. And the stock went through a, pretty parabolic move, seeing, I mean, the price was different back here, anywhere from $52 to $190 or so on the high end. But you've seen quite a rally after that. And I would expect something similar this time around, if not something more extreme this time around, just because you could make an argument there's probably a lot more shorts still in the stock than there even was then, because just it's been such an easy trade shorting the stock when they're just diluting shareholders. Like every couple of months, hey, there's another round of dilution coming right around the corner. Why would I cover on my short position? That's kind of the narrative here. Now, AMC stock is, in my opinion, going to rocket higher. Now, this could cause a $10+ share price for AMC stock, in my personal opinion. Now, I don't know everything that's going to be announced. I don't really know what Adam Aron is hinting towards. If he does not make a commitment to not diluting shareholders again, I'm going to be very disappointed with AMC because nothing else they say will get the stock up in a meaningful way. Sure, you fell to $3.58. Sure, the stock's back to $4.83 per share. In the grand scope of things, though, this is just where it was, to start 2024, January 12th, right? And so, it's not, we really haven't seen anything too exciting. Now, if you get back to like late December, that would be AMC stock over $6 per share. And even as recently as last quarter, AMC was $11 or so. So AMC has collapsed like 70% since the last quarter. And Adam Aron can say what he wants, but that is due to the dilution that we have seen and the debt being converted to equity. That is also dilution, right? And it's been at such a low price, it just continues to beat down the stock every single time. Now, if you look at the RSI at 54.71, overall pretty neutral. The MACD recovering a little bit, but still overall pretty neutral in my personal opinion. Now, if we do get what I expect, commitment to not diluting shareholders, I think AMC stocks are going higher than $10 per share. I think inevitably this could push you back to about $20 or so per share. That's just my personal opinion. Inevitably, we will get diluted again, so this would more or less be a trade. Obviously, this is not a long-term kind of hold situation, but I do think, given we're only at $4.83 per share, even right now, there is huge, potential for upside here. I think we're really only getting started with AMC and what potentially could be coming next. Now, in this market environment too, have you seen what stocks are doing out there? Have you seen SMCI's rally? Have you seen Holo's rally? Have you seen these other names? Oh my gosh, it is extreme what is happening to some stocks to the upside. And if, the right catalyst comes about for AMC, that could also happen to AMC stock. So let me know what you think about that down below in the comment section. That's going to do it. I really wanted to focus on these two things. I think NVIDIA, just to refocus on that, is set up for disappointment no matter what they report. Even though they're going to beat the estimates across the board, they're probably going to give you some really solid guidance. Its stock's probably still going to fall. The options market is pricing at 11%. So we'll have to wait and see. Everyone's raising their price targets before earnings higher. That's typically a recipe for disaster for a stock. Now, NVIDIA does tend to sell off. The last 3 earnings, NVIDIA has sold off between 8 and 22% over the next 4 to 8 weeks following earnings. Even last earnings, when NVIDIA beat on everything, gave you huge guidance, the stock still sold off 2.5%. If there's any weakness this quarter, if there's any quote-unquote bad news relative to NVIDIA, this stock could fall 11%. And we've seen that this earnings season, that, what the markets are pricing in as far as the implied move is actually what the stocks are moving as, right? If stock's implying a 5% move in either direction, the stock's probably going to move 5% in either direction. If the stock's pricing in 15 or 20% of a move, the stocks are moving 15, 20%. Roku, ANAP, some of these other names, they're showing us that. So NVIDIA's pricing in 11%, highest pricing you have seen in over 3 years. You could inevitably see a big rise or a big fall in NVIDIA stock. Now, you guys got to keep in mind as well, NVIDIA has really been fueled this rise by a lot of option activity as well. When the market makers are selling those options, they have to unwind that, right? So the stock can only go up for so long for the market makers have to start unwinding their bets and inevitably selling the stock they had to purchase. So that's also another way of potentially seeing some downside after NVIDIA's earnings. So we'll see. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.